This is a video on writing. How fitting. And to start off, I just made a Substack and I will now be writing essays and posting them to Substack. So if you want to read things I write, go follow me on Substack. It's same as my YouTube at Vagabond Intellect, and my name is just Ethan Hogue, my name. But yeah, I just want to put that out there at the start of the video. But now we'll talk about what I wrote about and my views on writing. Now, writing, I believe, is only done well if it comes from the heart. And I think that goes for anything, really. If it doesn't come from the heart, the soul can sense it, and the soul doesn't like it. The soul doesn't agree with the things that do not come from the heart. It loves and it yearns to see other souls expressing itself truly. And I believe writing is a form of art. And any art that doesn't come from the soul, with no boundaries, no borders, nothing holding it back, nothing saying, oh no, you can't do that, you can't cross that line, you got to keep it in this, or conforming to an audience, or thinking, will they like this? Is this gonna go over well? Will I make more money doing this or doing that? Real art is not made in that way. And writing, as I said, is art. And you must be true to yourself in it. And you must let your soul pour onto the paper, as I believe we should do in all things. Because this is where beauty is. I think all the greats ever, any artist, because in general too, life is like an art if you really think about it. Everything we do is a expression of a creativity. The way we dress, the way we walk, the principles we uphold, the way we really do anything is an art form. And when you don't express yourself truly and authentically, then you can just tell, and it's just there's something fake about it, and you just don't like it, even if it only rings true to you subconsciously. You may not like somebody and you don't even really think about it, but then you get asked, or you do think about it, and you're like, I don't know, I just don't really jive with them. But subconsciously, I believe our souls they sense the fakeness in people, and they come to find a disdain for that, because we disdain that in ourselves. We disdain when we do not express ourselves truly, passionately, and completely. And I don't think anyone, let me get to the point where on writing, where I think it's clear when it doesn't come from the soul. And I find it in Seneca's letter to Nero on clemency. I recently tried to read this letter, and I couldn't get through it because I've never felt so much fakeness in Seneca, so much conformity, and it didn't feel real to me. And I think it's clear because it's a letter on clemency to Nero, one of the cruelest emperors to ever be an emperor, one of maybe the cruelest rulers ever. And people speculate that Seneca only wrote the letter to try to convince a young Nero that mercy is a good thing, and to kind of manipulate him into being merciful, because Seneca could see that Nero was corrupt and he would not be merciful. But Seneca says things like, calls Nero merciful by nature. And this, you can just tell it's not from the soul of Seneca. And there's some points in there where I think Seneca kind of forgets that he's talking to Nero, and he's just speaking on clemency in general. And then those are profound, but then he gets snapped back into reality, that he's writing this letter to Nero, a young prince, a young emperor, who is the opposite of merciful. and he loses that. He loses that thing in his soul that just wants to tell Nero how twisted and how messed up he is. And he doesn't express himself truly. And also with writing, I think, and even with speaking, we shouldn't waste our time on trivial matters, but most especially with writing and reading. I think in this day and age, there's a lack of, good or meaningful writing. There's a lot of, magazines of trivial importance, on like the Kardashians or, social media news that benefits no one for knowing it or for not knowing it. And, sports is just so many trivial things in this day and age that just breed superficial non-expression of the self, because those things are all true. Most of those things are done for money. A lot of people, maybe not except sports, but a lot of people do those things for money. And as I said earlier, the true passionate art does not conform to a customer. It makes things for itself because it's beautiful in and of itself, and that's true art. But in this day and age, it doesn't seem like a lot of what is written is from the heart. It's to conform to a customer, or a lot of the entertainment that is produced is not from the heart. It's to conform to what someone may like in service to money or whatever it may be. And there's no true art in that. And we should be writing, like on things like the Stoics wrote about. Epictetus calls it the matters of utmost importance. And these are the things I plan on writing about. These are the things I already make videos about. And these are the things I will continue to talk about, because I believe and I hope our society switches in a way that values these things more than the trivial things. But I don't have much hope, because even in the works of the Stoics, they talk about how the philosophy classes are empty and the Colosseum is full. And is that not the same thing? Is it not nothing new under the sun, as it says in Ecclesiastes? Nothing has changed. The matters of utmost importance are still not cared about as if they were, and the matters of trivial importance, tickets sell out. You can't even get a seat, and it's just, that's the way it was 2,000 years ago. So in 2,000 years, sorry if I'm cynical for not thinking things will change, but that doesn't mean I won't sit here and try and hopefully start something that, I don't know. But yes, things that should be written about are the matters of utmost importance, not the trivial matters, and things to be read, things to be talked about, all those things. And as I say not always, but as I've said, these videos are off the top of my head. So I think if you want a little more structure, then you should check out my Substack, because it will be still kind of scattered, because that's how I show my passion and show what is seeking expression in me. But it will be a little more controlled and on topic. So if you would like, this is probably the only time I'll ever mention it. So go check it out.